On this episode of Not Rod, the Nova's exhausted. And it still does great burnouts. You've been asking for it, and now you're gonna get it, because the Nova is back. Since the last time you guys saw this thing, I've only done a couple minor little things to it. I changed out the fuel pump, I sent the Hearst shifter in to get deburred and re-shimmed. Feels really nice and solid now, and it doesn't get stuck in second gear. I could have done all the work myself, but I honestly just didn't feel like it. I also got the correct Hearst linkage for it and the correct plate for a 72 Nova that the Hearst shifter mounts to, so that the stick is actually in the correct spot now. I also installed an SS bezel on the back just because they look so much cooler with them than without them. But to be honest, I'm kind of sick and tired of having to yell at you guys when I'm in the car. It's really, really loud in here. So the first thing on the agenda today is exhaust. I've also got some kind of backwards things to do, like I'm gonna put a center console in it, but am I gonna put carpet in first? No, of course not. And honestly, the last time I installed these seats, it didn't come out very well because they kind of tilt down like this. And it's just not very comfortable, and every time you push on the brakes, it feels like you're gonna slide out of the seat. So I actually got the correct 72 Nova bracket kit to put in. Back there. Okay, let's get this thing up on some jack stands. Okay, so I always like to have multiple fail-safes, so I'm just gonna throw some wood under the tires too, just in case. I mean, honestly, having the extra blocks under there probably isn't really necessary, but I know a guy that actually was working on a forklift late one night, didn't get it secured good enough, came down and killed him. They didn't find him till the next day. So I just feel better about having multiple safety nets. So anyway, here it is, the Nova. Everybody's been asking to see it, so I figured I better probably do an episode on it. As you can probably tell, the paint has gotten a little bit flat, especially from about here up and from like that side over this way. And the reason for that is because it sat on the side of the house for a summer, and primer doesn't have any UV protection in it. So it kind of faded out real quickly where the sun was always going right across it on that side. But no big deal. I ended up throwing a car cover on it right after that summer when I noticed that was happening, and it's mostly sat since then. But I do have some things to do. Number one, it's really loud inside. It's hard to talk to people. It's hard to concentrate on what you're doing. So we're gonna throw some exhaust on it today. It's probably not the most exciting thing we could do, but we're gonna do that. The other issue that I have with it is, if you think back to one of our earlier episodes, the hole that we cut in the floor for the shifter is massive. And when you're driving down the road on a really hot summer day like today, it blows hot air right in your face, and it sucks. The other thing is when I put this new seat in, I didn't really get the angles quite right, and so it kind of noses down like that. So every time you step on the brake, it feels like you're gonna slide up off the seat. So I actually got the correct brackets for a 72 Nova to kind of correct that and get it where it needs to be. So we're gonna do a little bit of interior stuff on it for once. But we're gonna do it totally backwards the Knot Rod way, because for example, I'm gonna put a center console in it, but am I gonna put a carpet in first? Of course not. Huh, are we leaking oil on the way in here? Nah, I think that was from the forklift or something. Couldn't have been from this car. So these are like axle back exhaust tubes. They're already pre-formed to go from in front of the rear axle and go around the gas tank and come out somewhere right around in here. I think it's kind of like that, if I recall right. And then you chop the end out here where you want it. Well, let's see if it fits. Okay, so I think that'll work. So then that makes it pretty easy because I don't have to do any of these bends back here. I just have to make a few bends to get the exhaust to go up next to the drive shaft and connect to these. Okay, so I bought all the pieces to do this like a year ago and then subsequently forgot what I got. So I just rooted around in the trunk to find all the stuff that I ordered, and I found an X-pipe and 4 45s. So I decided to come over and draw it out just to make sure that I've got it straight in my head the way I planned to do it when I ordered that stuff. And basically what we've got right now is the collectors right here, and then there's just a straight piece of tube that comes into an offset inlet on the muffler, and then goes out of a center outlet out of the muffler, and it dumps out right here underneath the floorboards. It's really loud and annoying. And the exhaust sucks right back in, so you're trying to pass out while you're driving down the road. It's pretty cool. So what we're gonna do is cut the flange off of this straight piece of pipe here, and then that flange is gonna get welded onto one of the 45s here. So then the 45 will come out, go into the X-pipe, and then I'm gonna take the other 45 and I'm gonna cut it short so that it's already making its turn as soon as it comes out of the X-pipe. And then it's gonna go into that long piece of tube that's already connected to the muffler. And then it'll come through the offset of the muffler, and then it'll come out of the center, and then I'll connect it to that mandrel bent setup that goes over the axle and past the gas tank. So now I gotta pull the old stuff off because I have to use pieces from it on the new stuff. There it is. So when we put it together, it's actually gonna get flipped that way. So that's our X-pipe, which should be right around the U-joint where the drive shaft goes into the tail housing of the transmission. Right around in there somewhere. And these, yeah, see, I already see a problem because the headers are spread a lot further apart than that. So we're gonna need some straight tube, which I can get locally. That's no big deal. We're like right there at 70, so I can't take anything out of these. So I'm gonna need some pipe for those. Just some straight stuff. I thought about taking it out of that, but that looks like it's pretty much exactly where it needs to be. So I don't think that's gonna work. So I gotta get some pipe. But like I say, luckily I can get straight pipe locally. You can get bent pipe locally, but it's not mandrel bent. Goes. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can either grind the weld down, which is really difficult to find where you can get out of the actual point where it's fused, or you can just grind around the outer tube, get through the outer tube all the way around, and then it normally pops right off, so. Which is what it's done here. There we go. There's our piece. And if you cut into it a little bit, that's not a big deal, because you'll slide your pipe right up to where you cut and just weld around it again. Hey, you're a hot rodder, which means you like simple things. Loud noises, tire smoke, the smell of race fuel. Then one day you're handed a needlessly complex legal document you can't understand. Well, now you don't have to. With Legalese Decoder, they've got 3 plans to choose from, and the first one is completely free. Save the huge attorney's fees, and unlike me right now, skip the maze of complex legal jargon and click the link in the description to go to Legalese Decoder now. There's our 2 flanges, and then our 2 muffler pieces. So apparently these flanges are actually the same size as my 45, so I need to get a slug that'll fit on the outside of these 2. So we'll get that when we get the pipe to go inside here. Okay, just like that. 15, 18. Okay. So on the passenger side over here, I can actually use the factory exhaust hanger for this tailpiece back here. So that's what I'm going to do on this side. And then because this was factory, a single exhaust car, over on the driver's side, I'm gonna have to make my own hanger over there, but that's no big deal. So now that I kind of have a better idea of all the things that I need, I'm kind of at the point where I can't continue any further on this until I get some stuff. I gotta get a hose clamp to hang the tailpipe back there. I need to get some straight pipes to get this to be the length that I actually need it. Once I get all that, I think it's ready to start kind of putting it together piece by piece and getting it kind of situated where it goes in there. So it's about 9 o'clock. I think that's probably gonna be it for the night. All right, so I'm back after picking up a whole bunch of little pieces and odds and ends to make sure I've got enough stuff to make the exhaust work. So I picked up these super special heavy duty hose clamps, and that's what I'm gonna use to attach the rear pipes up to the existing hanger up there. Once I get the rear pipes in, then I can kind of get everything situated to just connect from the header flange back to these rear pipes. That's probably pretty good. Okay, so the system from the axle back is pretty well mocked up at this point. So now I actually have something to attach all the rest of it to. Yeah, that'll look good. Man, why is that one? Oh, that's why that pipe had to be shorter. This header sticks way further back than this one. See how much closer it is to the cross member? I actually really hate this welder. Too much crap. Like, I really just want like a normal old school welder that I can mess with manually, and this ain't it. So that's probably 16 gauge. So yeah, hopefully that's right. I played with this thing before, and it seems like I could just never get this thing set right. It does crap automatically on you, and I don't like it. But so is the way of the new world. Okay, so with the passenger side header sticking back about 3 inches further than the other one, that means I gotta take about 3 inches out of this 45 here so that the mufflers will line up. Okay, I got 3 inches cut out of it, and now I should be able to get the mufflers to match up. It's an OCD thing. I'm not sure how perfectly straight this whole thing is, but probably okay. You don't normally see underneath the vehicle, so who cares, right? It's not rod. You guys are all gonna laugh when you see how this thing looks when I get it out of here. Huh. Actually, that doesn't look as bad as I thought it was gonna. I thought it was gonna be like super duper like crooked. It is a little bit. And I could have got it completely flat if I would have broke all these tack welds loose and kind of twisted the X pipe around. I could have got it completely perfect, but you know what? If it was a show car, maybe I would have, but this is not rod. So man, that looks plenty fine enough to me. Okay, I see welding in my future. I didn't even end up needing any of these pipes. I can actually take these back and get my money back. Please don't break into a million pieces. Oh yeah, dude. That is genius. Almost like they built that just for me. Okay, I've got a lot of welding to do, so I'm just gonna get to it here and we will skip on past it for you. I don't know, it's actually welding pretty good for me now. Last time I used this welder, it sucked. I just could not get it to work consistently, but okay. Well, there it is, all welded up. Check that out. Okay, so I got both tailpipes clocked the way I want them. I got the passenger side clamped down to the mufflers. Now I just got to get this side. And then one more set of hangers on the tailpipes, which probably aren't even really necessary because I put hangers right here on the mufflers. But I'll do it anyway. And then it's done. Ow, fuck. So now I will cut all the zip ties and see where everything ends up. I can add hangers as needed. Yeah, so that one definitely is going to have to get pulled this way. Probably do that with a hanger because it hits on the leaf spring. Okay. And same thing, this one hangs down off. Oh shit. Apparently it's not actually clamped in the muffler. Well, that's great. All right then. Wow, these clamps suck. Okay, there. Now the tailpipes are finally hung. Of course, I have a feeling when I go bouncing down the road, this old crusty piece of rubber is gonna break because it's as old as the car. You know, a smarter man would probably remove the tire, but I don't feel like it. Actually, that works almost perfect. But now I gotta use one of these holes. This is where the factory mounts are on a dual exhaust car, which this was not a dual exhaust car, so these aren't tapped. I think they probably just use like a self-tapper on here because I don't see where you can get those little clips on with the nuts in them. So I'm gonna see if I have like a 3/8 self-tapper. Maybe I can just tap right into that and have a quick ending here. No, even the 3/8 aren't big enough. Damn, there's no way to get into those. Yeah, I gotta get it off of the leaf spring like that. It needs to come over this way, because otherwise it's gonna be bouncing on the leaf spring every time well, constantly. Do it just a little bit more. That's probably a little bit closer. Yeah, now it doesn't tap on it just from giving it a little wiggle, because before if I pushed on it that far it would tap on it. Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, that's something I can even fix pretty easy in the driveway too. Yeah, we just have to roll with it like that and figure that out later. But the audience doesn't need to know that. So I think it's time to drive it and see how it sounds. Wow. Well, it doesn't sound quite so badass at idle, I guess, but it's gonna be a lot nicer to drive and talk to the audience. It's still loud, which is good. I don't want it to be like, you know, a Honda or anything. Wow, it is incredible just by a little bit of extra exhaust pipe how much quieter it is. Like, it sounds like it's got different mufflers on it. All right, well, you guys probably want to see it going down the road, so let's do that next. Not that it would really matter if the exhaust bounces on stuff, because the windows and the sides bounce on everything. Like, it already makes a bunch of racket in here, but at least the exhaust doesn't bounce off stuff. She's running good. Oh man, this thing is fun. Actually, I think it's funner with the exhaust quieter because the proportion of power to sound is much, much better. Back when it was super duper loud, it just seemed like a turd. Like, even though it did 13.6 in the quarter mile, it felt slow from inside the car because the exhaust was so much louder than its power to loudness ratio. Before, when it was so loud, it felt really sluggish because it only has 330 horsepower, so it sounded like it should be really fast. Well, now it sounds slow, but it feels really fast, which is much, much better if you ask me. At least that's how I prefer it. When it starts getting up past 4,000 RPMs, it actually feels like it's going to break loose. Well, I still have a whole bunch of hot air blasting up in my face through the gigantic hole in the floor. And as per usual, that ended up taking way more time than I expected. So unfortunately, that's all we have time for on this episode. But next time, half-ass interior work, you can count on it. It's not off by much.
I don't understand the problem.
So, okay, well good. If you don't understand the problem, then neither do I. It's done. All right, well, see how it sounds. Well, it's not gonna sound like anything if I don't connect the battery. And you know, I still have to yell at you from in here, but not quite as loud at least. And connect to that mandrel bent thing I showed you that goes over the axle and past the gas tank. So then we're gonna come out of the center outlet and go over the river and through the woods to Grandma's house we go.